Welcome back to another episode, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to play against the Slav defense. Well, no, playing the Slav defense, sorry. D4, D5, C4, and C6. So I'll just get straight into it. Um, I'll cover all the lines, but we'll just start with knight C3. After they go knight C3, you'll play knight F6 to, defend the pawn. And after knight F3, you take this pawn. So most people here would play E4 if they're like either a beginner or if they like are in an intermediate player. I've never seen this position before. E4 and E3 are both bad moves because you can go B5. And most players here who play the Queen's Gambit will go A4 because they think it's basically the same thing as the Queen's Gambit declined, right? Except support the pawn with a different pawn, the E pawn. But actually here you can go B4, and here knight A2 you get this pawn. And if they take this pawn, you're just gonna go A5. And basically you're just simply up a pawn here. Knight takes B4 is a bit more complicated. You're not going to be able to be a pawn up, but you get a relatively solid advantage. So I suggest you remember these. It's not that hard to remember. If you're fighting at advanced, they will play king takes, but I'll be covering the if he takes like this, just go like knight d7 and just go c5, and then go bishop b7. Um, if he takes with the knight, it's literally the same thing. Like they're going to be able to take this pawn. You're not gonna be able to stop them, but it's it's okay. You get c5 and that's what you really want. You want the bishop on the long diagonal and you're good. Um, so I was just covering some of like niche little tactics. Um, Also if they go e3, you go the same thing. But here instead, you can go knight d5. Basically, what you're saying is that you're going to be, keeping this pawn advantage. If he takes this knight, you're just going to take it with the queen. And now, like you see, you're covering all the squares, right? If he takes the pawn, you can take the knight first. And after he takes, you take this pawn. So you're still a solid pawn up. And here, well, they don't really have much other options. They could go for e4 if they wanted to, but here you're just gonna trade. And now like they're like down an attacker, so they still won't be able to win this pawn. Okay, now we're covering, and now that we're finished covering the bad moves, we're gonna go to the main line, which is a4. So they have to play a4 here, and you have to know that this pawn is just dead. So play bishop f5 to stop them from gaining more space. So they will play e3. Now you play e6. So when he takes this pawn, he's getting blocked, but also you can develop with bishop b4. So for some players who like probably have never seen this position as white before, they might go queen b3 thinking, well, this bishop is like, kind of dumb. So I'll just attack it. Every player's instinct is to attack a piece. Well, here you can go c5 straight away, actually. And so I have to explain you this. In the Slav defense, you're either going for the e5 pawn break or the c5 pawn break. That's what you really want. So here you can go just straight up c5. But I don't really like playing this way. I like playing queen e7 because I play for the e5 pawn break and to stop them from pushing e4, which is what they're supposed to be doing. But if they're a new player and they play queen b3, you know that they don't know what they're doing. They're supposed to go queen e2 and go push the e pawn. So here you can I like prepping up and like see queen e7 knight d7, and they actually have no idea which pawn you're gonna push because both of these support both of the pawn pushes. So I believe it's more flexible than straight up going, c5. And like entering into a bit more chaotic, I like to prepare myself, but it's your choice really. If they go knight h4, you don't actually care about this. Just go knight b d7. After they take, just take back. This is like really simple. Well, it's not really simple, but you have to know that you don't need to be scared and move your bishop. Plus, they're gonna be able to trade it anyways. So pawn on f5 stops like their entire plan of going e4. So including when their queen is on e2, by the way. So they have to prep more, like f3, e4, but this makes the e3 pawn weak, which then you can attack, right? So let's look at, the better line, I guess you could say. So now they're trying to go e4. So here I recommend just moving the knight up. If he goes e4, you can just move the bishop back. Um, if he goes e5, then you get the knight d5, which, if you think about it, it's not actually that bad. See, this pawn's trying and covering like some squares. You have to be careful. But yeah, this is like one of the like random lines that like computers suggest, and like you can't even really remember them. That's why I just suggest like 94, because like you just straight up stop them from playing e4. It's really simple. If they go g4, which is the top line, a top move, but you still have to memorize it though. And you still have to know how to counter this. Just move your bishop back. It's not that hard. Like 95, okay. Like, what is white doing? They're like pushing pawns on their king. So most people, like beginners, will take the knight. You just take it back. So here, you're okay. And if they want to still try to go e4, you don't have to stop them. You can't stop them. But now you go bishop g6. So like you don't want to go back to bishop f5 because if they go e4, they're gonna have a tempo. They can't go e4 right now because the d4 pawn hangs. So it's like kind of hard to do, right? They might go knight f3 again and like, well, I mean, you could go for like a draw, but like let's just check out what happens when white plays knight b3. Trying to prep up this move. Well, what you're gonna do is, hmm, excuse me, queen e7, and you don't mind if they play e4 because, well, they aren't having any tempos. And here, really, you don't really care because, like, what are they supposed to be doing? Like, if your knights were here, then it would be like really annoying, right? Because they could kick your knights whenever. But like, just play knight d7 here and you're fine. If they go e5, thank you. You get a better scope, right? And if they try f4, I mean, they could try like f4, f5 to launch an attack. But personally, I don't think this is much of a threat. Because, if they tried g4 and stuff, they'd be opening up their own king, right? And like as long as you just play h6, you're fine. You're leaving a vacant square for your bishop. You're all right. And remember, just go like c5 to like, pawn break when you want. Um, I basically finished explaining the open Slav. Now you have to learn something else, which is this confusing line. By the way, if you still go here, if they go here, it transposes. So if they go e3, this is where you have to be playing the e6 into the semi-Slav. Because if you take here, he just says thank you, you know? Because you're not playing anything fun or anything. So you're gonna have to play e6 and close up your bishop, which is really hard for me to play with. But it's all right. Knight c3, knight bd7. And here what you're hoping them to play is move their bishop. So now you can waste the tempo, right? Because what they would like is straight up just go here, right? Then they will be able to play something like queen c2 or something. But here we're wasting them a tempo because they have to move here, then here. Now we're going b5. And in the semi-Slav, it's easier to play into play the e5 c5 pawn pushes where it's less chaotic than the open Slav. Good players will play queen c2, the lane, but you'll still play bishop d6. Remember bishop d6 and not bishop e7. This is a mistake that this is an inaccuracy that I used to play. Bishop d6 is just on a better scope. If they go c5, they're releasing all the tension, and really you can just move back. It didn't really help them with anything. And that just helps you go for e5 because you don't have to care so much about protecting the d5 pawn. So they might go bishop d3 now. You just still transpose, right? And here, white should play bishop d3. Bishop e3 is just bad because it's just aiming at these two pawns, which is literally just the pure blocking the bishop. That's why bishop d3 is better. So here, bishop d3, I like playing bishop b7 and like just basically waiting until white castles. a3, they try to stall castling, castles. Um, and here, you're okay. And they'll play b4 if they're good. Then you're gonna go a5, and you're gonna challenge them because you're trying to go c5. That's why you played b4 in the first place, right? Otherwise, this bishop is just bad, right? Right, guys? They will probably go rook b1. A takes b4, a takes b4. And here, just go queen e7, attack this pawn. And like, for example, queen b3, protecting the pawn. Well, now you realize like you can't go c5, but you can go e5. See, like the purpose of these two moves are just really good at prepping. And this move was even forced, forcing, attacking the pawn. And now you got e5 down. If you get e5 or c5 down, you're good. Yeah, as long as you get that without them like playing some annoying moves like knight e4. Um, oh, sorry. Where was I? Here. So, in my game against Raphael, I played, I think I tried to go for e5 straight away and just gave up on c5. But here, like, he played knight e4. I was a bit stumped. And here, the engine says that white's just basically winning by 0.8. So basically, 1 point. By the way, you should look at the game with Anand. That goes knight g5. It goes c5. Knight takes pawn, knight g4, f4, pawn takes pawn, bishop c5, bishop e2, knight d5, knight takes rook, push pawn, knight g6. Oh yeah, sorry. Here bishop takes g4, bishop takes pawn check, king h1, knight takes g4, knight takes f8, f5, knight g6, queen f6, h3, queen takes g3, queen d3, no, queen e2, queen h5, queen d3, bishop e3. I'm not going to go into any further details. I'll just be showing this, and you can look at it yourself. Yeah, I'm not doing it for you. I'm too lazy. So overall, as to a summary, in the Slav defense, what you are hoping for is to go for either winning and keeping the pawn without any like too much of a disadvantage in like as a compensation for winning that pawn. And you want to go for the e5 and c5 pawn breaks, which are important in both the semi-Slav and the open Slav, but the semi-Slav is obviously less chaotic and will be more useful because it's much more closed than the open Slav. I mean, the open Slav is called the open Slav for a reason. Goodbye.